Hello, Wolf. Coming to you live from the future, and I want to do a video to explain why you should learn blockchain technology. Now, I want to do this video as raw and genuine as I can. I want to do this video as I was speaking to myself, and I wasn't in this position where I can have this conviction to follow this pursuit, right? And that's the thing about life is you have to be very careful on the advice you give. But if it's something that you strongly believe you would give to yourself genuinely, and you give to people you genuinely care about, then that's a good indicator that you have conviction on the idea. So what I want to give conviction on is to learn blockchain technology. And there's several reasons for that. It could be financial. I know that's a big motivator for a lot of people in the world, majority of people in the world, and there's good value to that as well. There's the act of passion. If you are a builder and you are a visionary, this space is the space to be. It's the new space, it's the cutting edge. And obviously this is the string that strikes my chord, this passion of building. There's so much potential here that it's unbound. We don't know what it looks like. And the people that are going to build it are learning, are in the field today. The future of Zuckerberg's, the future Steve Jobs, the future Larry Page and Sergey Brin, the future Bill Gates, they are being made, and they will be the new blockchain builders. The new blockchain builders that capture and create new markets will be the ones that create the history of the future. These are going to be setting little infrastructure of humanity, and that is not something that should be taken lightly. Okay, so also another point I want to address is that I come to you as a 23-year-old Gen Z, Instagram addicted, Twitter addicted, caffeine lover, gym head, certified lover, album lover, Donda lover. Although personally, I'm more of a CLB guy. We'll talk about that another time. You know, I could throw some bias out there. But the point is, I want you to know that I'm a normal dude. Like, I obsess in this space, but I'm a quote unquote normal person that I'm up with the trends, I'm up with the hip hop, I'm up with the hype, I'm up with traditional media. And that's where I think there's a really strong misconception that these people are quote unquote the nerds or the people that Herman and Living the Crab and don't isolate. There's certain truth to that level. Definitely my social life, my building area in life, it's been fairly reserved. However, it's anyone can do it. And that's the point, that you can have mutual interests. You could be that nerdy, but you can also be someone up with the trends and on essentially a normal rift of life. Because this field, it will take a lot from you. It's not something that you can do lightly. It's something that you do have to commit towards. Okay, but the point is, this is, as anyone in the world can do this and jump. That's the objective of that narrative that I wanted to give. Okay, so why should you learn blockchain? Well, to begin, I want to talk about systems. So in life, in space, in physics, in everything, there's a system. Okay, the way you operate, the way you think is a system. It's a system of atoms bundling together to create your physical skin, or your body, I should say, your hardware, which creates your system to your tissues, your organs, your bones, and one of being the most important, your brain. So being aware that your brain is just a system of these molecules coming together, creating some magic called consciousness, where you can think. This system allows humans to be the gods of the earth. There's no other animal that comes close to the system of molecules that we have that yields the product of consciousness. Nowhere close of someone or an animal among these lines. But that is essentially level one, right? That's at the core. It's the first principle of life. And even if we didn't have this system, we wouldn't see the next systems, the dimensional aspect of life. So I believe it's Plato who mentioned that there's a universe, a world where there's just the things you can't see. It's the world of thoughts. So thoughts are a system, right? Language, from phonetics, enunciation, sound, pattern recognition. It's a subjective system that humans can carry. And this can be equated in simple terms like the software of life, right? Software of life is a system. The way we think, the way we operate, the way humans navigate through life is this mental system, and we build on top of that, right? And on top of this mental system, we build physical systems. These are the systems where tangible matter is manipulated to a certain aspect to yield a product. This could be the system of creating kinetic energy. Okay, you get fire, right? You burn oxygen, you get the elements you need to start that fire. Okay, you start a system for kinetic energy. And look around everywhere you go. Everything you see is a system that physical and tangible molecules are being manipulated to yield that product. So combining this physical dimension of product, we get the physical infrastructure of life. This is what leads to commerce. This leads to transportation, logistics. We manipulated the physical world through hundreds of years of mapology, civilization, building cities, and this infrastructure that the world became, as they say, an oyster. It became our oyster. The world was conquered. The system of the physical world has been conquered. Where is this next system progressing towards? Well, it's where you and I are right now, in this digital software technology system. And this system has a name, the internet. So the internet is a product post physical world systemization that leads to a new dimension, a new world, the internet. Okay. What happens here? Well, a lot does. There's applications, there's watching videos, there's hearing people talk like this. Experiences are physically limited, but mentally and visually unlimited. And this is where things could really start changing, where a new system is going to happen. I think there's two dimensions here. There's virtual reality, which is the system of software operations, hardware to manipulate, create a digital environment, right? But I think we're far away from that being dominant. What's happening first and what's the next system is blockchain. So blockchain technology, what happens is the systems that we use to operate and build and get to the physical world, we'll call it conquering, that system was built first off that mental system, right? The software of life building component. And between the software of life, the thought software, to the conquering of the physical world, there was a bridge. And that bridge was society, civilization, the invisible traits and virtues that allowed for that bridge to happen. And what's happening now is that that system of the bridge between the subjective mind and the physical world is happening on the internet. So the internet is the physical world, right? This dimension, it's a new space for matter. And what's happening is we're building the transition of infrastructure from tangible, real world to this digital space. Is that a good thing, bad thing? I don't know. I think this is DNA progressing upon itself. I think consciousness in life will progress no matter what. And if the DNA can see that, it can create a new vehicle into this space, then it's a benefit for our DNA because it's in this new world. And that's something to think about. It's something that is a very abstract concept, but I just believe that the system that our body really relies upon is whispered down upon by our DNA, right? DNA is survival, survival, survival. And we are the byproduct of that. And this current byproduct of the DNA is telling us or creating the outcome of this digital world, this digital space, this digital dimension to be created to increase the chances of the DNA to live on, right? It's mitigation of risks of going extinct. Yeah, mitigation of risk. So that's theory based. Going back to blockchain technology, what is objective and what's happening real time is infrastructure is moving into the internet. Think about when in this point of civilization, I learned European history. So think about when villages in Europe were being assembled and built, right? What was going on? Well, first, they got to the point of banking. Banking was a very important progression to villages progressing, this concept of money. Well, there are so many systems in between, from agriculture, being nomads, building agricultural villages, processes, and all these systems, right? But one that we're seeing in blockchain, and which was the pioneer in the case of usage, was DeFi, decentralized finance. But the keyword is finance. So going back to the village story about progressing, one of the biggest systems was banking, and banking allowed humans to progress through capitalism. It's totally not the most ethical thing to do, but it did yield a progression of venture, exploration, new technologies, and progression. That's the keyword. Banking yielded progression. And what's happening now is that banking that carries the same weight as physical banking, or progression, I should say, is being built onto the internet. So the internet is now creating this banking system that leads to progression, and it's being built. This is called DeFi. There's billions of dollars in this space, and it's happening in the blockchain. It's interesting that this is one of the first systems that is building the outcome, right? But what's interesting is the new system on the blockchain that is causing ripple effects among the world, and that is NFTs. And this is more on consumer products. The fact that you can buy a JPEG, a product, through new currency on this new technology, fascinating, fascinating, fascinating concept. I don't think people understand the relevancy of converting fiat current money into crypto, a new decentralized form of money that no one owns. That's the profound thing. That I saw a great tweet that said, when government separated from the church, that was a very profound thing, right? What's happening now is that money is separating from government, and it's at the same scale. When government changed from church, moved away from church, that was a huge level of progression for humanity. Then comparing it to that scale, money moving away from the government is this new wave. And this is blockchain, right? Step one. But this ain't it. This is just scratching the surface. Infrastructure for society. This could be social segments, social status, jobs, careers, market. So many things are going to come onto the space. And what's going to happen next is, this is where I got ahead of myself, is this virtual reality world will be built off this blockchain infrastructure and system. So humans potentially have a very high possibility from moving from the physical world to this virtual world. How that looks, beyond me. No one knows, and this is theory, but I believe in it. I put money, sometimes you can't predict the future no matter what. But this is one of those few things that you could be very confident that's not gonna, it might not happen exactly how you think, but you're not gonna be too far. Like the early believers of the internet in the late 90s, but everyone at that time had this conviction that true hardcore 0.001% believers, the early adopters, they believed in it, and they've been the closest to predict the relevancy of the internet in current day. Same wave, but now in blockchain. The early adopters, right? So if you're watching this, you are the next wave. I didn't go into the hacker 0.001 Bitcoin, Satoshi, true cryptographic believer era. I'm jumping in more on, say, mid-early adoption wave. There's a chart called Crossing the Chasm, or the bell curve, sorry, in economics about the different levels of demographic usage. But it's still early. And at this scale that we're talking about, the earlier you get, the higher possibility for huge outcome. All right, so you can hear my Slack going on. Let me kill the application for a moment. Sorry about that. But I think it's a good time to conclude, regardless. Serendipitously, we'll conclude it there. It kind of reminds me of a book I read about this whole conversation itself, about trying to predict the future, but essentially the butterfly effect, right? Every outcome will have a ripple that would just keep on changing the future beyond no means of possibility of knowing exactly what's going to be. But being aware of that 100%, but still having that conviction that this is going to be the future. I think that's powerful. All right, so we'll end it there. If you watched this far, thank you for your attention. Trust me, I genuinely appreciate someone listening and engages in this depth of thinking, right? It's an area where it takes a good amount of cultivation, exposure to get in-depth perspectives. So when that is reciprocated, it's a good feeling. Okay, so thank you for watching. Genuinely appreciate your attention. We don't need no more entertainment influencers. We need real thinkers out of the world. All right, so with that being said,